My wife, since the time she can remember, has had one desire in life, and that is to be a mother. So you can imagine how disappointing it was to one time hear from a doctor saying, "We don't know why, but you are not going to have any babies." The idea of being a parent was probably the most important thing we could ever do. So immediately we started looking for other options. We can now say that we have struggled, but we have learned that adoption is not just a scary thing, but through adoption we can bring more joy into our home. We have now adopted 4 different children. We adopted our first one as a baby out of the hospital, and then when he turned 4 years old, our second and third child came at 6 and 3. When our oldest was 9, we then adopted our fourth child, and she was 12 years old at the time. The older our children have been at the time of adoption, the more difficulty we've had with them as they adjust to this new non-chaotic lifestyle. Today we'll talk to you about some issues that, if remembered, will help you avoid some of the pain in adoption while maximizing your happiness in your home. There are 3 main issues that I think everyone should understand. 1, there are struggles that you might encounter, especially if the child is older at the time of adoption. 2, utilizing resources like counseling is not just for the child, but is also beneficial for the parent. And 3, adoption is part of the plan of salvation, so understanding the temple blessings, they'll help you overcome the challenges and struggles that you have as you bring joy into your home. I want to begin by explaining why adopting is not just about babies. And when children are older, it may bring different, yet sometimes more challenging experiences, but it's just as much about them as well. There are many reasons why somebody might adopt. It might be because they have trouble conceiving. It might be because they just don't want to go through the pregnancy process at all. But we also find that sometimes as the adopted parents get older, having a baby would not make sense. So adopting an older child might be one of the better routes for them to go. Adopting that older child can bring many more challenges that you wouldn't find when adopting a baby. Peggy Sewell wrote an article called "Adopting Older Children and Children with Special Needs." She said most of the time when you hold a baby, they smile as a response to your care. Whether they know it or not, they are dependent on you and they are bonding to you. Now, this period of bonding is probably the most important time for any child, especially in developing a long-lasting relationship with a parent. So the older a child gets, the trouble they have with this whole bonding experience. They've either been taken away from the parent they've been bonded to, or if they've been bouncing from house to house through foster care, there's been no bonding at all. So by the time they come to you, really the only relationship they might have is a relationship of loss. An older child coming from this kind of environment where they've been bounced from one home to another can bring a confusing understanding of what a family really is. The role of a parent can be confusing. You might be trying to provide love and support, but in their eyes, they may be thinking that all you're trying to do is get between them and their birth parent. Common respect is very hard to develop. Emotions go up and down as parents take on the role, especially as a disciplinarian. Melinda Smith and Joanna Sayson wrote in an article called "Attachment and Reactive Attachment Disorders." They said, an inconsistent childhood could result in abandonment or other disorders. If a child feels repeatedly abandoned, they will learn that they cannot depend on anyone, and they will also feel that their new home is a dangerous and scary place. Issues like attachment disorder keep your new child from developing a trusting relationship with both you and your spouse. Many times they give up on proper behavior to speed up the process of being sent away. An interesting thing we find is that a child with attachment disorder has a hard time starting to feel that feeling of love and respect as they've moved in and are now becoming more comfortable in this home. So to avoid that feeling of love, they'd rather cause enough trouble to have you want to send them on. Being sent to a new environment, that chaos about that experience, is more comfortable to them than falling in love just to be torn apart again. As you adopt and try to build a relationship with this new child, you begin to see the results of sometimes very difficult childhoods. It's natural to want to get into a power struggle with them, but working with professionals may help you and your child understand what issues are really there and help you keep from developing weak relationships and make them into strong ones. Nancy Cohegan wrote in Welcome to Attachment Disorder site, she wrote, There are many disorders like attachment disorder, borderline personality disorder, and feelings of abandonment. Having a correct diagnosis, if there is a problem, would definitely be beneficial. Catherine Patricelli wrote in an article called Adoption, Long-Term Issues for the Adopted Child, "Not every problem stems from some disorder. It might simply be a struggle with self-esteem and identity crisis. Talking these issues out might help the child understand about their new identity and that they can coexist in this wonderful environment." Counseling is not just for the child, it's obviously also for the parents. Understanding the issues that your child faces can help you understand what they're going through. When that child yells, "I hate you, you're not my real dad," having a better understanding of really where they're coming from will allow you to take that comment and throw it off your shoulder and not feel the burden and weight of possible hatred that your daughter is trying to show somebody. Counseling can also assist parents in developing positive communication and comfortable boundaries, which will help the child and the family strengthen their relationship. In most cases, the best counseling we can ever get comes from living the gospel of Jesus Christ. Understanding the plan of salvation and knowing that we're all adopted in the gospel anyway helps us overcome the struggles of our adopted family, and we know that our family will be together forever. The sealing ordinance of the gospel is a very special thing, and it's for everyone. And it doesn't matter if your child's adopted or if your child is natural born to you and your spouse, your family can be together forever. We have now been to the temple 4 different times, once for our original sealing, and then 3 consecutive times for each time a child has moved into our home. And I can attest to you that as we sit across that altar, the fear of possibly not being able to love that child as your own totally disappears. Why? Because they are your child, and that child is your own. And as they are now sealed to you for time and all eternity, any learning experience that you go through, whether it's a challenge or whether it's a happy moment, will benefit you and your family forever. One thing that's important, though, in regards to adoption and the plan of salvation is understanding what free agency is and giving that child the ability to experience free agency. We have definitely learned a better appreciation for free agency and the consequences of making unwise choices. We are the product of having 4 children in our home because of the fact that parents have made very unwise choices, and those children had to be taken from them. But it also keeps us grounded as our children will make mistakes in adjusting. They came to us with no real understanding of the gospel and without any real desire to care to do what is right. Being an eternal family gives us strength as they battle their fears. Sometimes we want to give up because their fight comes across as hatred toward us, and we realize that they're just terrified and simply reacting to their fears. It's also important to remember that they are responsible for their own choices. We want all of our children to do what is right, but we have to teach them, give them the resources for success, but always allow them to make their own choices. Remembering this will actually bring happiness and joy in your home and within your relationship. In summary, I want to read from True to the Faith. It says, "We believe that children are entitled to be raised by parents who honor marital vows and who can provide love and support. Adoption can be a great blessing for many children who are born without this opportunity. Adoption can also be a great blessing to couples who are unable to conceive of their own children. Welcoming professional help and relying on the principles of the gospel will help you overcome the challenges in the adoption process. Adopting children has been a very challenging experience for us, but we can testify that even though the challenges have been strong and great, and it sometimes have make us want to give up, we can tell you it's also been the most rewarding experience of our life." Thank you.